until I see a red thing. It's great. But this preview will actually like end up in the recording. It's fantastic. Oh, and we are live, magical. So hello, welcome to the podcast. My name is Kent Pycat Gruber, and I'm joined with two friends today. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Yeah, my name is Qantas, and then today we are joined with our special guest, InfoSec Ali.
Hello.
Welcome. Really glad to have you on. You've been doing a lot of stuff. You've been very busy. The time that I've known you, like always studying. Um, what cert are you going after again right now?
The GXPN, the exploit
Which one?
developer.
Exploit developer. So with that in mind, like, so can you kind of explain that cert? I mean, it's sort of like a broad topic. So how do you like study for that? You know?
Uh, yeah, he makes some sacrifices, that's for sure.
For sure.
Basically, the course starts off. It's advanced pen testing and exploit development. It starts off with basic network access and some more advanced methods on bypassing, a captive portal, and then bypassing network access controls, locked on ports. From there, it jumps into manipulating flaws in how crypto's implemented,
Wonderful.
weak ciphers, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Privilege, advanced privilege escalation, and then it dives deep into Linux memory, Windows memory, the kernels, how ASLR works, how to bypass it, how to bypass DEP, ROP chains. It gets deep in the weeds.
Nice. So it's very broad in terms of like the different pieces of software effectively you end up attacking, and like you can like chain those exploits into like something like impactful to the business, you know. So it's
Absolutely.
that's very cool. And like, what other certs have you done in the past? Like builds up to that, because that's not like the first cert you'd go for, right? Like,
Oh yeah,
you
yeah. No, no. You start to cert before you go to college. It's a requirement to get into the industry.
I see. I see.
Totally
I haven't
joking.
gotten that one yet.
That is a great weeder class right there. Oh God.
So I started off with Security Plus. Kind of got my feet wet with that. I jumped into. I actually jumped directly into the SANS Masters program because work wouldn't pay for training, and SANS training was like $7,000 a class. So
Expensive, yeah.
I decided, well, you get like 10 to 12 certs, and you get a master's degree that's accredited, and it's from SANS. So why not? Don't ask me how I feel about that today. I'm ready to be done, but yeah, jumped into GSEC, which is Security Plus on steroids. Um, Incident handling, intrusion analysis, the GPen, the Pentester one. I just recently passed the OSCP, and I jumped into the GXPN.
Nice.
Wow. Okay. That's
On a roll.
Yes, I heard the OSCP is pretty rough.
It is. Believe it or not, once you finish it and once you, I guess, learn everything you're supposed to learn from it and then jump on to something more advanced, you look back at it and you're like, wow, like that really is the tip of the iceberg because there's so many levels. The more you complete, the more you achieve, the more you realize you're really just beginning.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And the OSCP, that's the made by the people that do Kali Linux, right?
Yes.
hmm
Gotcha. That's cool. Nice.
My friend's doing
Um,
the OWASP right now. He just finished his OSCP. He's doing the OWASP.
Nice.
Yeah. He said that's gonna be rough. He bought the labs and everything with it and spent a ton of money on it. How much money did you end up spending? If you don't mind sharing, did you spend any money for Sands or? Because I'm
Yeah,
not sure. I've never worked with Sands before.
So, because I agreed to this, the master's is really bundled up with like 11 certifications and a bunch of managerial classes and some gold papers you have to write. It all comes out to be, I think, 48,000
Mm.
Oh wow.
for the degree, and then you can either, if you have a GI Bill, you're golden. If you
Right.
don't, they have a tuition payment plan where it's $600 a month, no interest, 5-year deal, and 5 or 7 year, I can't remember, and then you're done.
Honestly, that's actually not too bad. $600 a month with no interest.
Nope.
That
No.
I would expect them to charge interest. That's really nice.
And then you get the class rate with the certification attempt down to like 37.50 per class.
Oh wow.
So
It,
you get a huge discount.
and this is all online. Are you doing this all online?
Partial online, partial there. Some classes you got to show up to some of the conferences, do a live lab where it's an incident, and they're pretty much throwing you to the wolves to see if you really know what you're talking about.
Gotcha. Okay. And are those anywhere around here, or are they somewhere we have to, like, fly to, like in Las Vegas or California?
I've never seen a Sands Detroit or Michigan, so it's closest I've seen is like DC or Baltimore or um, New Orleans. So
Okay.
you
Okay.
definitely got to fly out.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
Now, did you go to school beforehand? Did you go to college at a university, or have you only done Sands University?
I went to U of M Dearborn.
Oh, okay, gotcha. And did you go for any infosec related degree?
Not at all. I went to IT management. I didn't want to do the math classes, so I didn't do computer science.
Ah,
Hmm.
gotcha. So then, do you code now by chance? I mean, I know you gotta learn a little bit of that for
If
the
you're gonna be
Sands
doing
stuff.
exploit development.
Yeah.
If you, yeah, I can code. Nowhere near as proficient as PyCat, but I've been roasted for the way I code several times by PyCat and others. But yeah, I can make some code do
They
some
pushed it
things.
to another direction, not roasted.
It works. Hey, it
Yeah,
works. That's
for
all
sure,
I
for
care
sure.
about.
You know what? I feel you on that one. Yeah, I can't code that well. I mean, I get it to work, but I don't have that mindset just yet. Set in
But
place.
I will though, however, say for anyone that is starting off, I mean, master it. It's been such a booster for me in my career. It's not even funny.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
let's
it
talk
definitely
about
can be
that.
like, oh yeah, let's actually like, can we like step back and like talk about like how you like got into infosec?
Yes. Where'd you start? Where was your
The origin
baby
story.
talks? Your first I'm trying to think of the word. What baby words? There we go. First words as a baby.
Uh,
Yes.
I was a junior at U of M, and um, they're like, "Hey, you should go work as a co-op. Um, the pay's not as bad, and you can get some experience this way. By the time you graduate, you can line a job up." So I did that, and I got a job as a IT co-op at American Axle, and basically we just help desk, um, desktop support, deploying systems, which
Hmm.
I used to do back in the day. I was the family IT guy,
Okay,
um,
yeah.
and then when I moved on from there and went to DTE, and I found out that they had an opening in InfoSec, and I was like, "What are you talking about, InfoSec? What is InfoSec?" And they're like, "Well, the guy, the hackers and stuff. You get paid to do that kind of stuff and stop them." I'm like, "Wait, you're gonna pay me to mess around like I used to when I was a kid?" I honestly was a complete shock.
Yeah,
I didn't.
sign me up, right?
Yeah,
For
I was
real.
like, I was like,
Where
I
do I
mean,
sign the papers?
I was the guy back in the day making your CD-ROMs open and close. I used to mess with all my friends on AOL and crap, and
Classic.
it was just like, I was like, "Wait, you're gonna pay me to do that?" Yeah, let's do it. Go ahead. And then a few months on the job, I was told that I shouldn't look for another job because they really liked what I was showing and the passion I had for what I do.
Mm.
Uh, and I got lucky that way because I graduated with a lot of smart people who had a hard time breaking into InfoSec, and some, to be honest with you, still are trying to break into it. And I graduated in 2017.
yeah, a lot of it really can be like a who you know sort of thing or getting lucky. Like you have to do a lot. Like networking is so key in this industry.
Yeah,
And
S-
absolutely.
yeah, and networking is not difficult though in this degree or in this field, excuse me. Because you go to these meetups and it's not like people don't want to talk to you. People are so open to talk to you in the community. You
yeah,
just gotta go to those events and like it's really simple. Just if you end up going to those conventions, meetups, MySec, for example, you know, it's not that difficult. Too
yeah.
difficult.
Show up, be humble, like learn
Exactly.
stuff, share what you know. And just like it's good. It
My
is really good.
my first MySec, I didn't say a word. I
Yeah.
was
When
just
was your first MySec?
ah
How many years
20
you been?
2017. I think it was
Okay.
the once I found out I was going to security, I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like, because I used to go to coffee house coders in Ann Arbor to learn how
Mhm.
to program in Ruby because I wanted to be a developer originally.
Yeah,
Oh,
Um,
Ruby.
Ruby's cool. Ruby.
and they were requiring Ruby on Rails experience, so they directed me to meetups, and then I found MySec, and I was like, okay. So I just started going. I didn't say a word. I think it was 2017. I didn't say a word. I was just kind of a fly on the wall in the back, and then it's whether you know people or not. I mean, everyone just comes up to you, talks to you. It's a very laid back, comfortable experience. I
Yeah.
think the hardest thing is really just to go out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Because like you are like going out. Like I remember like going out the first time is like maybe like not knowing like a good like 90% of the people that were there. Like maybe you go with a friend, maybe you have to go alone like one night because your friend flaked on you. Like all that stuff is like super intimidating the first couple times, but like the people like they come and like they port scan you, they like figure you out, and you like you can start like building a relationship, and like it's pretty like open. And people are very happy and like to talk to you and like figure out like what projects you're working on and stuff. So
Yeah.
it became very natural very fast.
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's amazing the amount of knowledge in the MISEC community itself. Uh,
Totally.
I I think I've tapped almost everyone I know in MISEC for something I was working on here or there.
Definitely. Like everyone and everyone's so willing to help. It's great.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
open. Yes. So, what are you working on? Any projects right
Everything,
now?
everything,
Everything.
all of the above. Uh,
I feel that one. I feel that struggle. Yes. Right there.
so my I guess expertise, if you call it that, it would be in threat and vulnerability management. That's where I started off, or that's where I guess I got hired into full time. I started off in risk management. Um,
Okay. And then
yeah, I
what's your
was
vulnerability scanner of choice? Depending on the situation or
honestly, once you learn how to tune them, they're all the same. I
gotcha.
mean, use purpose, wide scale, Qualys, just because the
Okay.
agent is one of the best in the industries. It's not you're not scanning through firewalls and through networks, bringing down systems, and I've done that a few times. But it's the agent's great for large corporations. If you're on a smaller budget, Nessus is amazing because the license for a pro license is like 2,500.
Okay.
So that's easy. Pick up a Vert VM and drop it in a network, scan it, meet your compliance requirements, and hopefully patch and move on.
Yeah. And then with it being agent based, does it do so it's like agent on the host.
Yeah.
So is and then like let's say my host is a Docker like container thingy.
Yep.
Um does it
Docker.
do like Docker like inspection of the containers running on the host?
Yes. So there's a container version for container agent for containers, um, and
Cool.
then for serverless systems, you can do the web application scanning. One of the cool things with it is because of the web app portion, I feel that they didn't want to build out anymore. They partnered up with Burp, and you can
Oh,
actually import Burp results, merge the data together, and produce one single report for the asset.
that's helpful.
Hmm. I love me some Burp Suite. I love Burp.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Burp's amazing. I do see personally in my job I do see a lot of Qualys scanning and Nessus scanning. They're both pretty even, and it's funny because they'll throw up alarms constantly.
Yeah.
They'll be running scans 24/7. And at first, when I first started, I didn't realize what Qualys was. I knew what Nessus was. I knew who FireEye was, but I didn't know who or what Qualys was. So do they
Qualys
have?
is
Go ahead.
they're very unique in my opinion. I mean, they're one of the largest. They've been around for 20 years.
Oh wow.
They have the potential of just dominating the game, but they lack certain I don't even know what the word is I'm looking for. They could do execute better,
Okay.
but
Hmm.
but
What would be
the
something you want them to do better? Like, what would be like a specific thing they could like specifically do better? Not to put you on the spot. Yeah, I don't know. We're
no,
doing
that's fine.
quality assurance.
The communication they're migrating off an old Oracle database in the back end, and all their new
Oh.
products are on the new Elasticsearch.
Okay. So
And
that could be rough for some people.
well, it causes issues on our end because your VM modules are on the old stack, but your new stuff, like your new dashboarding, is on a new database. But a lot of the times, the syncing isn't really as efficient as you would appreciate. So you might get
Sure.
different numbers if you run a report on the old system versus the new one.
Totally. It just hasn't replicated over yet and indexed.
Yeah, and if anyone with any type of experience of reporting to leadership, you mess up on numbers, you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. If it's not consistent, yeah, I could imagine that being really frustrating because
Yeah.
what is the source of truth in the system? You know?
The API as it comes to Qualys, just pull everything out of
Yeah.
the API.
That's fair.
Now, how is Qualys's? Is Qualys have? Is it free at all? Do they have any free versions or anything like that? I
Yeah.
never worked with them.
There's a free home version that you can get, I believe 16 IPs associated with your account, completely free, and you get the agent. So if you do want to mess around with the container security version of it, I'm sure that your rep can turn that on for you and give you a couple agents.
Okay. That's something that I've actually I downloaded Nessus Scanner not too long ago with my buddy, and we were working on that. Well, he actually downloaded it first and was working on it for an assignment for school, and he had a little bit of issues first starting off with Nessus, but then got it to work and found a ton of vulnerabilities on his system, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah, I mean it's unique. I mean, if you want to if you really want to compare the two, open up TCP dump and watch the traffic between both of them.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's right. I could do that. I like that idea. I might have to do that now.
I love TCP dump.
TCP dump all the files. So,
And then go ahead.
I was just gonna continue on. So, what are you doing now? What is your job? What do you do in the field? Are you in the field at all?
Yeah, currently still in the field. Right now, I've been working a lot more with the APIs and really dumping all the data to a backend database and visualizing the data in Tableau. Um, Currently, I'm not in cloud security, but I've been doing a lot of cloud security uh, duties
Okay.
just to enhance our visibility around specifically around the stuff that security wants to see. Uh, uh, for instance, how many anytime I get hit up for a scan or hey, XYZ's it's external facing, what kind of vulnerabilities do I have on it? That's great and stuff, but the migration to the cloud has really screwed things up in terms of visibility because if you don't have an agent on those systems, and a lot of times in unmanaged cloud you don't know what you have or don't have. So I dump all the public facing IPs out of each provider, and I have those being scanned daily in Qualys through the API. This way, you at least know what you have and where it's at, whether it's managed or unmanaged. That's a separate conversation, but you can at least go back and report, hey, we have this, we're exposed to this here. And I mean, if you can't see it, I mean, how can you stop a breach?
Yeah, that's fair.
It's so true though.
And then what's the motivation specifically to use the API as opposed to just like checking everything else in the GUI that
Uh,
they have for you, the default console?
big company, that's too many to check.
Yeah,
Okay.
that makes sense.
I don't know how much
So
I can share, but
totally.
several thousand systems and projects and subscriptions all across the providers. I've worked my way out of Excel, put it that way.
Gotcha.
Okay. So you have a really big infrastructure that you
Yeah.
have to take care of. Makes sense. Okay.
So you got so centralizing all of that into like kind of like a single like pane of glass, whatever infosec tool kind of likes to be.
Yeah, so I mean, you have your CMDB, ServiceNow, stuff like that, and
Mhm.
then you can trust the data going in there, or you can at least have another source or another tool to validate the data. And usually, in my experience at least, if you're the ones if you know what you're looking for and you're in InfoSec, you're most likely going to pull the metadata back to help you make decisions.
Yeah. That's
I think it makes a lot of sense. And I'm all for making custom tools to like solve a job. Like the APIs are there for a reason, like there's a limitation to all of those consoles. And like I've definitely like experienced some limitations, even on like a smaller scale where I haven't gotten to thousands of nodes, but on a much smaller scale than that, I've definitely like experienced like advantages, being able to just like program against that. Like obviously like tools like Terraform I enjoy, but even just like actually interacting with those APIs are rewarding in many cases.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're able to paint a picture for someone higher up that they can actually action and depend on and get some things done and become more secured. I mean, it's amazing, and that's actually one of the things that I relied on MiSec for. I came to you for Azure.
Yeah,
I know how much you love Azure.
I remember that.
Brian Brian has been a lifesaver with the data analysis portion.
Nice.
I took what you taught me in Azure and moved on to GCP.
Nice.
But I mean, Sam's helped me out. James, there's so many resources, and everyone knows something different.
Mhm.
And then it's amazing how much resources you can pool to actually get whatever you're working on done, or even just to learn about it.
Yeah, getting exposure from all the different like interests that people have, like all of people's niches that they fill.
For sure.
It's really really helpful because it helps like give you a rounder picture of your specific niche or niches.
100% agree.
Now, seeing the fact that you've tested or have used Azure and GCP, have you used any others?
I've messed with DigitalOcean and AWS a little bit, and that's pretty much it. I recently bought some domains though. I wanted to. A buddy of mine wanted to set up a paper for ThoughtCon in Chicago.
Okay.
So I was going to build out the C2 infrastructure, and I wanted to see how that would play out with different C2s around the world, and see what can I bypass and what gets flagged immediately because it's just a shady c2.com website.
Sure.
Yeah. Now, which one do you like out of all of them that you've tried out? Because there's always this big cloud debate, or like which one's better. People
Yes,
argue
we're
about.
getting
That's honest to God, that's the same debate as Linux, or not Linux. I love Linux, Mac and Windows.
Yes.
Whatever
Right.
whatever tool gets the job done.
Exactly.
Isn't the cloud's not necessarily cheaper? People always think that it's going to be so much cheaper, but it's more of a risk transference and a really a good way to keep overhead low.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
always wondered because I just started dabbling in the cloud. I'm mainly with GCP. I've touched AWS, but to me it just seems very confusing at first, so I just kind of steered away from that. And Azure, I have a license through the school, and that's
Yeah.
cool. but GCP just seems to be very user friendly and easy to use, and I can really understand it. Um, so I think that's why
GCP
I picked that
G-
one already.
GCP has made a lot of strides recently to catch up to Azure for sure.
Yeah. I never realized how
Yeah.
big AWS really was in the cloud market until I did a paper recently. I never realized that AWS had most of the market for a really long time. They pretty much were cloud computing. And
For
then
Yeah,
sure.
Azure came in and they started taking over some of the market. And then GCP has this little itty bitty part of the market, but they're starting to catch up and get to that point of like Azure and AWS.
I'm really honestly, I was never a Microsoft fan, but I'm really happy to see the company open up to Linux and Linux itself enabled Azure to go so much farther. Um, I'm really happy to see that. GCP is getting there. In terms of large, from my experience, I should say, before I even say this, I'll probably get roasted. Uh, Large scale deployments and management,
Mm-hmm.
uh, from a security standpoint, seems a bit easier to me in Azure versus GCP.
Mm-hmm.
Not that GCP can't do exactly what Azure's doing. It's just I think there's different methods of applying it, and I feel that Azure's a little bit better. But I mean, I think you can be just as secure in any of the providers.
Yeah, see, I have never had a big infrastructure. I've only had, I think the most systems I've ever had in a cloud project, has been like 10 systems. And that was my, actually, just recently, I'm using Elasticsearch to try to collect logs from different clients and just understand that and be able to understand like the back end and setting things up and stuff. That's only thing I've done that's have reached the max for what I've done. Never reached like the thousands or having different things within a project or a grouping.
You should. So recently, I was playing around with some of the rule creation for Splunk
Okay.
around the cloud, and you should definitely tap the security center, Google's and Azure's, and pull down all the alerts by project.
Mm-hmm.
Even for a small infrastructure, you'd be. It's nice to actually visualize that data, and then you'll be able to create better rules around what you want going into your SIM, whether it's Splunk or open source or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um, but there's a lot of metadata, and that's what I go back to. A lot of the security engineers that aren't some of the my pet peeve is when the architecture and the engineer guys don't speak to the SOC guys who look at these tickets daily.
Oh,
And
I'm right there. Yeah, I agree with
you
you.
can you can
100%.
populate so much data for your analysts that would
Mm-hmm.
make their job so much easier.
Oh, dude, you don't even understand. Yes, this
It,
is so
it,
true.
the larger the organization, the worse that problem is.
So bad. Like there's sometimes there's alarms. Like where I work, there's some alarms that will come through that just spam over and over and over, and they want you to they want you to escalate it. They want you to make a case and create, whole place of information. And I'm like, dude, you really just said this was good, you know, or this is obviously fine because it's coming back as just a excuse me, as a, for example, as a shadow server, right, where it's just gonna constantly scan the internet, where they're just constantly scanning the internet. They're gonna end up constantly scanning you. Just gonna change the IP and then come back,
Exactly.
you know, and they don't understand that concept. And I think it's maybe just because um, we're at the beginning stages of where we're at, um, and like some people are just kind of getting to that more experienced level.
Oh
Some
yeah.
people aren't as experienced and aren't there because in the SOC world, that at least from what I've been told, that's pretty much like the entry level for infosec, right? Um, so there's not a lot of people that have much of experience at SOC 1 level, and then SOC 2, who are working with the engineers, with the companies, they it's rough. It's rough. They don't understand tuning, fine tuning, like things that should be tuned out months ago. especially on such a large scale. Like there's ranges of I've seen ranges of hundreds of IPs come through as malicious, but you check them and you verify them, and they're not, but the alarms just keep coming through, and they want you to make cases. It's the worst thing ever. But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to go on a rant.
I hear that all the time, so I can relate.
So is that kind of what you do now? Are you like a SOC 2 or like an engineer, security engineer aspect? Like what is your job title?
Senior associate.
Okay.
But so technically, I'm under my manager is the head of global vulnerability management. But I get passed around between the cloud hygiene team or the cyber hygiene team, which really goes out there and takes care of external findings from Security Scorecard and BitSight. You have all these old domains. You have your certificates are expired. You're exposing this port. You have these vulnerabilities out there. Your MX records, your DNS looks like crap. Go clean it up. Stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the cloud security stuff where I'm enhancing the visibility and really just kind of reining in unmanaged cloud. And then I also work on some of the incident response stuff. I want to get more into the reverse engineering side, but there's only so much you can do.
If you're interested in that, I have a lot of cool places to go for reverse engineering.
So that's actually the next cert I'm taking in January, GREM. I might be going to the Cyber Sands Threat Intel Summit and take the GREM there in person.
Okay. Yeah, then I'll send you some links. There's a whole bunch of places that I do a lot of like crackmes.1 and stuff and work with those and kind of work my way through those. Like when I have extra time, and I love reverse engineering. I think it's so fun because it's such a challenge, you know.
I should have took that before I took the GXPN. It would have been a big help.
Yeah, true. I could see that after looking through what the GXPN goes through. That would definitely make sense for sure.
The sad part is the shellcode is the easy stuff for me.
Yeah.
ASM is not that bad. It's the it's really the applying the like if you get a question and you got to really play out the scenario in your head. Okay, if I run an exploit to do this, this, and this, and here's the reaction. For someone that doesn't do that on a day-to-day basis, that's very challenging.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you get lab time, I mean, there's enough there to keep yourself occupied. But I'll be lying if I said this wasn't one of the hardest classes I've taken with SANS.
No, that's very true. It's if you're not doing it often, it's hard to explain those things in a professional manner or the way that they want to hear it, right?
Or to even answer the right question.
Exactly. Yeah. Because you'll be thinking that it's something else, but then realize, oh no, that's not what it is. Because if I would have had more experience or have working in this specific industry at the time, I would have already known this.
100%.
And that's what I think is actually kind of interesting. The whole concept of pushing for certs in order to get the job. But yet some of these jobs, in order to get the job, you have to have the cert. But to get the cert, you should have experience, right?
Honestly, the whole job cert scenario, my recommendation for anyone trying to break in, whether you're SOC, whether you're your GRC, governance, risk, and compliance, whether you're desktop support or you're a network engineer, go get a Security Plus. Start off small. Once you get a Security Plus, you'll find what you like and what you don't like because it's pretty broad. And if SOC level incident response type stuff is more your flavor, great. Now you can focus around those type of certs. If pen testing is great, I mean there's so many smaller certs that help you build up to be able to walk in, take an OSCP, and pass it the first try, which I did not do. I failed it. So it really just like if you got the time and you're really just starting out, knock out some of the lower hanging fruit. You get a Security Plus. That's DoD level 1 approved.
I think
I
so.
mean, that's on a DoD list. I mean,
Hmm.
it's not it's not a crap cert by any means. That's where you're at.
Yeah, it's a good starting cert, at least from what I've seen. I don't have it personally. I'm thinking about studying for it just to have it for like that first, just to have the cert. But I'm not somebody who I don't know. I've always been told like get certs, get certs, get certs, but I don't know. I'm just weird about getting certs. If that makes sense. I don't know. I just have like you know what I'm talking
No, I
about.
mean,
Do you have
yeah, I
anybody
mean,
else
like,
have that weird feeling?
I don't have any certs right now. I mean, like, I've gone. I mean, not anti-certs. I mean, like, it's just not something I've put any time into. Nothing that any of my like jobs, like have ever like paid for or anything like that. It's just I've focused most of my time on like the side projects and programming,
Mm-hmm.
like different open source stuffs, and trying to contribute as much as I can in weird ways to different open source projects, like like
Yeah, and
Metasploit or BetterCap.
and that's in lieu of a cert itself. You don't need to have certs. It all really depends on what you're doing. Experience trumps all, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
If you have no experience, if you have no guidance, if you don't have anybody to reach out to, join MySec, and then see where it's, see where. I mean, if contributing to an open source project, go for it. Um, if you're really stuck and don't have anywhere to go to, for me, I didn't know anybody in InfoSec, so
Hmm.
I jumped into certs, and Brian calls me a cert junkie. Maybe I am, but that's literally my only way to gain exposure to areas outside of my job role.
Totally. It's not a bad way to go. Like I like obviously like in some weird ways we've almost kind of like done like two different things in terms of like that. Like that's kind of like that specific thing. And
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting cuz both of our careers are like working out like fine. Like we're both able to get like jobs, we're both able to like do things and like, explore things and learn more things. We're just doing it in different ways. And
Yeah.
what's really kind of beautiful about the industry is that you know the industry is relatively flexible. Not all jobs, but some jobs will totally allow you to get hired without having any certs, as long as you have other experience. So as long as you can fill your resume somehow and you can, interview well somehow, you know, just make it work, which is kind of nice.
that.
As opposed to like having a mandated you must do this in order to
Oh,
participate in the industry.
if I'm ever interviewing anybody and I see no certs, no experience, but passion, they'll get the job over someone that has a cert any day of the week.
Totally.
For me that's key. Is like that's what really drives me is, especially when I go to DEF CON. You see everyone with the same passion you do. Oh my God.
Totally.
I mean,
It's great, and like you feed off of each other,
Yes.
and like you're like planning projects and stuff. It's really great. Yeah.
Oh, B
yeah,
sides was amazing. That just oh my goodness, being able to see all my hacker peeps all together in one room or one building, right? Oh God, it was heaven. I was
oh, I
like,
mean,
is this heaven? Am I dead? Is this it?
you quickly learn who you are by the people you surround yourself with.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I went to DEF CON and I went to the Splunk conference.conf.
Okay.
Um, and I would take the tinfoil hats and the blue mohawks any day of the week over any conference anywhere. I mean,
Mm.
I love the hacker community.
Yes.
Yeah.
They speak like I don't need to know anybody. You stand in line and you're sitting there talking, and you have an experience. Oh, I was trying to pop a shell on this lab, got this far, did this, and then oh, you should have did this, and this instead because of why. And there, before you know it, there's 2 hours gone, and
Yeah.
if you really value that, put a value, quantify how much time and money that would have cost you if you paid a professional company to come in and teach you those skills.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the guy that probably told you that probably does charge like, $7,000 per, person, for the
Yeah.
class. So
So
they're there.
it's crazy because then you build this network up, and every year I go to DEF CON, I have to network with 5 people I maintain relationships with. And those 5 are either web app developers, network developers. I just met someone that was a mobile developer or exploit developer, I should say. I think I should start learning more about that. And it's amazing that you have these people all over the country. And believe it or not, the more you network, let's just say, God forbid I lose my job tomorrow, I got more than 1 or 2 people I can give a phone call to and probably line up a job.
Yeah.
So
the network effect is powerful.
Very
oh,
powerful.
absolutely, and everyone wants to help.
They do. It's like these conventions are like taking the online forums like Reddit, 7chan, 4chan. Not the bad side of those, obviously, but the hacker side, right? Think of the hacker side of those and like putting them in person, right, or in real life.
100%.
I think it's great experience. So, InfoSec Ali, we kind of know how you started. We know kind of what you're interested in, and where you're at right now, and what you're
And we
working on
can't
right
really do a handle like origin story because I mean it's like pretty
now.
straightforward.
It's very straightforward.
Yeah, I'm a total nerd, so that's the only thing I can think of.
So, InfoSec Ali, what is your goal, your end goal? What would you like to see? Would you like to own your own company? Would you like to be head of a department? Would you like to come out with some software or some tool? What is your dream end goal in this industry?
Good question. I get asked that all the time. It's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I honestly don't know. One of my goals is to end up speaking at DEF CON. But in terms of industry goal, it would probably be do something that allows more people to break into the industry. Whether that's open sourcing some project I'm working on, just setting up classes, teaching other folks, whatever it is, just really find a way to give something back.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the only long-term goal I have. Short-term, really is just pay off these stupid loans.
Yeah, I feel
I
that.
got enough loans from Michigan to last a while. So,
But okay, so you wanna give back in some way. Give back.
yeah, I mean, you kind of have to, right?
Yeah, it's a
Yes.
requirement. It's an
Yeah.
unspoken requirement.
Yeah, I mean, you can't join a community, tap it for its resources, build yourself up, and walk away and say, "Screw you guys."
Yeah,
You
that
got-
would
you-
be weird.
That'd be bad.
You gotta send the elevator back down for the next person
Yeah.
because before we know it, we're getting old,
Mm-hmm.
and we're the
Yeah.
dinosaurs of the industry.
It'll happen.
Oh yeah, it's too much for you for any one person to learn anyway. So I know people that are 18 years old teaching me stuff.
Yeah.
So it's you got to give back and you got to stay humble.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Stay humble, give back. Now, just taking back to a message or chat or message words. Can't talk right now. A message you sent in general chat in MySec about bug bounty hunting.
Mhm.
Tell me about that. What interests you about it? What do you kind of know about it? What do you see yourself in the future doing with that? Just because I'd love to have you on, if you do start tackling bug bounty, I'd love to have you on in the future and kind of talk about your experiences with bug bounty and how it went and what do you like about it and stuff like that.
So I'm diving deeper and deeper into it, and I think that with the experiences and the SANS classes, I should be able to at least get a couple of them
Mhm.
per year. But I'm looking to quantify or I guess find a way to make some extra side cash doing bug bounty hunting.
I see. Taking
Gotcha.
all of your ninja skills you're learning, and then trying to go make some money is like I don't
Yeah,
know,
and here's the thing:
mercenary.
I'm a freelancer.
hey,
Mercenary.
I'd rather get paid for it and not go to jail than get paid
That's
for it and go
no,
to
yeah,
jail.
totally. I mean, bug bounties, they're legal. It's the way to go.
Yes.
It really sucks. Like, so my major experience with bug bounties so far have been I found a bug in a product. Now I go check if they have a bug bounty program. They had a bug bounty program that was open on whatever bug bounty site, and it was public for a little while, and then they made it private. And now I have to like log on to the platform, hope that I get invited to this thing, or just email them the bug, which I did. But when you email them the bug, you don't get any money. Like they're not going to like retroactively give you money. They're going to just say thank you very much and move on.
See,
So
that's not necessarily a bad thing because depending on what you want to do with your career, for me, um, you know, I don't know this for sure, but I'm kind of leaning more towards the exploit developer, to kind of the security research. And I mean, Google's not going to hire you unless you have X amount of CVEs to your name.
sure.
Um, to get to a spot to where you're working from home, you're constantly just developing new exploits and finding new holes, and truly becoming a full-time researcher, you got to earn your stripes. And it's not about the 50 or the $100 bounty. It's more about, okay, you found A, B, and C, and then you kind of have a resume built up with everything you're awarded.
Yeah, for sure. I think the major like downfall right now probably of bug bounty programs, not to like their like super dismay, I suppose, but like not enough companies I would argue are like actually doing them
Yeah.
because there's like certain niches that like I'll be a bug bounty hunter and I'll like figure out like this like specific niche and like perhaps Java is very enterprisey. And so I might find this specific vulnerability and I might find it in like several different places and start racking up a bunch of cash on this like specific team that just had this terrible pattern in their code base for whatever reason. So like that's like really cool when like obviously someone finds that and like in a real world situation they might be able to like actually exploit that against like a company. um but like in terms of like earning your stripes, it can be limiting and kind of frustrating, like explicitly from like someone that's like found bugs in applications where they didn't have a bug bounty program or they didn't even have a security at email or anything like that. Like those things can just be like really frustrating, as a developer.
Yeah.
uh that
I
like I think it's just like more companies need to be engaged in those things.
Oh, I agree 100%. I mean, as a developer, I mean, here's the thing, right? You get X amount of time to start a project. Halfway through, someone in leadership wants to promise that the project will be done 6 weeks in advance, and you're already 3 weeks behind. And
Mm.
then you get rushed. You're not doing proper code testing. You're not actually validating and checking for bugs. You're just rushing to get this out the door. And it's tough, and it's hard for. I mean, I feel for developers because that's a really tough situation to be in, and that's how
Yeah.
all these vulnerabilities get introduced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always heard that
So
that's. I've always been told by people in the industry that are doing software development or full stack development is just the aspect that those little spurts that they do where they rush people and I can't think of what it was exactly, but rushing through that whole process causes a lot of issues. So just
and
at the end of the day, don't do it.
it applies to almost every industry. Um,
Yeah.
Someone wants to, lack of a better term, someone wants to make a better name for themselves by being able to finish projects early. Um, Promises someone to high up in leadership, and now everyone's on the hook for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Expectations being managed realistically is super hard in IT. Classic challenge.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, anticipating my CISO always states that anticipating the next ask and having a play ready
Mhm.
for that anticipation is the only way you're really going to succeed.
Yeah.
It's fair.
Like you got to know the possibility of what may be coming and what possible solution. You brainstorm that before it's even asked.
Yeah. you don't want to be Googling how that works right when you get the problem. You want to kind of hopefully see it, on the horizon a little bit and start
Ex-
prepping yourself a little.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. I'm excited to see where you go with bug bounty hunting and how everything goes with that.
Yeah,
It's-
get some extra side cash, get some
Exactly.
dough.
Oh yeah, pay off some loans.
Right.
Exactly. I mean, that's one way to do it for sure.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen people, like I was telling you earlier, Stalk. He's one of my favorite YouTubers
Yeah.
and bug bounty hunters, and the amount of money that he can collect off of a bounty or other people collect off bounties is incredible, and they have a very similar community just to ours, right? Just the bug bounty, like a very specific niche, just bug bounty is very similar to like the MySec, where you like get together for meetups and stuff like that, and they get to sometimes if you're good, they'll send you out to these conventions or little kind of like hackathons, right? Where
Yeah.
HackerOne or BugCrowd puts on. So I'm excited to see where that goes because you can make a killing off of bug bounties. I've seen hackers that were put in jail or potentially about to be put in jail for bad things, and they turn to bug bounty because that's what they do. They hack stuff all the time. Why not make money off of it and do it the legal way?
No, for sure. I mean, for me, the loans is a big part because
Yeah,
it's
that's
coming.
nice.
They're coming due soon, so I want to start paying those off. But
Sure.
what sucks about being good in operations is your operations. If you're really good in a certain area and how you're able to solve problems, likelihood, unless you obviously quit and get a different job, of you transitioning to like a pen tester role
Mm-hmm.
is slim to none.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um, but yet, in my case, I have all this training. Okay, great. What am I doing with it?
Yeah.
And that's
That's
where
a
I
fair question
turned.
to ask.
What is
I
it?
mean, like, that's a totally fair question to ask in terms of like how exactly you're gonna like build up like the things, the certs that you want to kind of like define your career.
Exactly. I mean, you have this training. You went and learned this. You achieved this thing. But what are you doing with it? Is it
Yeah.
just a paper on the wall, or because if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. I don't care how smart you are.
Definitely.
Yep.
Got to keep those skills sharp.
Yeah, in our industry, I mean, some of the hacks you read about, like, wow, how are they doing that crap?
Yeah, totally. And the landscape changes under the hood. So like you'll have, the obviously VMs and then containers and then container orchestrators and how like, cluster security works, like all these different like layers and complications and security. And like people are just like always trying to like, just trying to keep up. And there's always like these gaps that you need to fill because your company's going to like, pick this new technology, it's going to use it, and it probably is insecure by default, like all technologies. But like what are those insecure defaults? You have to go find them in some cases because they're not easily documented. It's a very interesting sort of almost like treasure hunting game sometimes.
Our jobs are secure for a long time, my friend.
Yeah, for sure.
As long as companies keep giving American Express cards out to their IT employees, we're
Of
good.
course.
Now, have you guys heard about bypassing two-factor authentication by chance?
Yeah, there's a new method that was just displayed by the Chinese. They claim it was the Chinese. I don't know who it
Yeah,
was. But
Apps 20.
yeah.
what, what are the
but-
details?
I'm trying to get the more in-depth details. I got the generic aspect. Let me see.
I didn't read a technical write up on it. It was more of just a headline news. I saw it, and
Yeah.
it was more around the line of spoofing to obtain the two-factor authentication
Okay.
code.
Okay.
But
Can make sense.
what bothers me is NIST designated SMS two-factor authentication codes as unsafe back in 2017.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to be using SMS if you can help it.
Yeah.
Kind of make. I mean, in a sense, with how really how exposed mobile phones are, and most companies are just implementing MDMs now.
Totally.
But what's an MDM? Just a container with the company's private data on there. There could be another application. You're just reading everything from RAM.
Yeah. It's kind of
So-
interesting. You just have some sort of visibility, and maybe you can figure out, like, maybe there's a malicious application. Like, yeah.
So it's just like somebody that, somebody that can actually know how to obtain that data. They may not know the platform or the code to actually get it done. Just in theory, you can contract that out and get an app developed and get all these likes around it, and
Oh,
bam.
yeah. It's easier and easier to make applications these days too. Like frameworks, like you can just use JavaScript, or you can use Flutter, or you can obviously use like the native tooling. Like it's the barrier to entry to even making mobile apps is actually like quite lower these days. So like making a malicious app that feels native, that feels like a normal app, is like super easy.
Look at Fortnite. They want people to download the APK directly from their site instead of the Google Store because they don't want to cut Google in on 30%.
It's beautiful. Those side load apps where you can just like literally have like effectively the browser install an application on the phone, like these desktop apps, like with the install buttons that you can have in the URL bar, is really interesting. Service workers and having persistent JavaScript running on the host, while it is sandboxed and there are like limitations and you have to be relatively crafty as an attacker of how you use that, it's really quite fascinating how far you can go in making like these cross-platform persistent mechanisms on hosts just through these browser installs, which people are using in commercial games like Fortnite or many other installs.
If you follow Malware Unicorn, she was a reverse engineer for Facebook. Now she's on the Facebook Red Team. She had a post, I think it was a couple months ago, and she said, working in reverse engineering has helped my career so much because now she knows what to look for and what gets detected. So when she writes malware for the Red Team, it's
totally
nothing's catching it. And let's just face it, you can use behavior analytics all you want. You can use, your if statement AI. If you know what you're writing, you're getting by most, if not all, unless you're doing static code analysis on everything you're running.
Yeah. And like, targeted persistent attacks from an APT are hard to defend against. Like if you have like an internal red team, or like heaven forbid an external red team like going after you, they're going to find holes. There's cracks somewhere for sure. And that's just the reality of the situation. That's why you have to continue to look.
One of the common sayings you'll hear in every SANS course, if you ever take one, is, now I'm drawing a blank.
Oh no.
It's you may not. It was a detection. Detection is a must, but I keep forgetting it.
What are you paying all these SANS courses for? You don't even remember. No, I just make up quotes.
Prevention is ideal, but detection is a must.
That's fair. I
like that.
You need visibility, and that's going back to the cloud. The unmanaged cloud is okay. Great. Everyone's expensing all these subscriptions out there that we have no idea what's out there. But if you have read-only rights to the global tenant, you can just use the API, pull everything back daily, and have an inventory of what's what and what's where. And if you merge the APIs together and kind of build the data set and the metadata across different APIs, like the billing API versus your VM API and your actual data store API, you can tell a pretty nice story.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Those read-only like service worker accounts that continuously scan are very, very valuable.
You don't even need a service account. You can just hijack the G Cloud access token.
Yep.
Yeah, however you want to do it. And I like that there's many ways to skin the cat because it's like application developer friendly.
Oh, absolutely.
How many ways is there to skin PyCat?
I don't know. 2, 3.
I'm not going there.
And And I think with that, it's probably a good place to end the podcast.
I gotta ask
Um,
just before we end. All right.
yeah.
Just because I know this is a pretty big thing in our industry. I know there's a lot of people drink beer. InfoSec Ali, do you drink beer?
I do not.
Oh man, dang.
I make Green Jam drink my beer.
Ah,
There you
okay,
go.
fair
He will
enough.
gladly drink everyone's beer.
Yes,
A
he will.
surrogate beer drinker.
Fair enough. I was gonna ask what everybody's favorite beer was, but fair enough. Okay. All right. Next time, I guess.
Reasonable. Okay. Well, on that, thank you so much for joining. You guys are great.
Yes.
Always fun chatting with you guys. So thank you so much.
Thank you, InfoSec Ali. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
You're amazing.
All right.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night, guys.
Take care.